Welcome to this summary of Brené Brown's transformative book, Dare to Lead. In her book, Brown teaches us how to lead with vulnerability, courage, and empathy. She challenges conventional ideas of leadership and shows us how the most effective leaders aren't those who try to have all the answers, but those who embrace uncertainty, foster trust, and create an environment where people feel safe being themselves. In the next few minutes, we'll explore the core themes, principles, and insights that make Dare to Lead an essential guide for anyone looking to lead with integrity, empathy, and courage. Let's begin. Part 1. The heart of daring leadership: vulnerability. The first and perhaps most profound message in Dare to Lead is that vulnerability is at the heart of daring leadership. Now, when most people hear the word vulnerable, they associate it with weakness, but Brené Brown redefines vulnerability as the willingness to show up, to be seen, and to take risks even when there are no guarantees. In leadership, vulnerability means creating space for honest conversations, owning mistakes, and asking for help when needed. Brown explains that the fear of being vulnerable keeps many leaders from building trust within their teams. When leaders armor themselves with perfectionism, defensiveness, or control, they shut down the possibility for creativity, innovation, and true connection. But how can vulnerability be practiced? According to Brown, it starts with embracing discomfort and uncertainty. Leaders who practice vulnerability acknowledge that they don't have all the answers, but they're committed to learning and growing. They ask questions, they listen deeply, and they prioritize connection over control. Part 2. Cultivating courage over comfort. Another key message from Dare to Lead is that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action despite fear. Brown identifies 4 skill sets that are essential to cultivating courageous leadership. Let's break these down. The first one is rumbling with vulnerability, which means having the difficult, uncomfortable conversations that we often try to avoid. These rumbles are open and honest discussions where people are encouraged to speak their truth, even if it's messy or challenging. As a leader, being willing to rumble with vulnerability can transform the way your team communicates. It allows everyone to voice concerns, address issues head-on, and build deeper trust. Next, living into our values is about identifying what matters most to you as a leader and ensuring your actions align with those values. It's not enough to simply have values written down, leaders must embody them. This means making hard decisions that align with your values even when it's uncomfortable. Braving trust is a process, not a one-time event. Brown uses the BRAVING acronym to describe how trust is built. Boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, confidentiality, integrity, non-judgment, generosity. Finally, learning to rise focuses on resilience. In leadership, failures and setbacks are inevitable. What matters is how we respond. Learning to rise means developing the resilience to get back up after we fall, using our failures as opportunities for growth and learning. Part 3. The armor we wear and how to take it off. In her research, Brené Brown found that most of us wear armor to protect ourselves in uncertain or difficult situations. But this armor often becomes a barrier to effective leadership. Common forms of armor include perfectionism, cynicism, and the need to always be in control. Brown explains that while this armor might feel protective, it actually disconnects us from others. It prevents us from being open, from being vulnerable, and from building the trust and relationships that are essential to leading effectively. To take off the armor, leaders need to practice self-awareness. They need to identify when they're armoring up and consciously choose courage over comfort. For example, instead of avoiding a tough conversation because you don't want to feel exposed, choose to engage in that conversation with empathy and openness. When leaders show up without armor, they create a space where others feel safe to do the same. Part 4. The power of empathy. Empathy is a recurring theme in Dare to Lead. Brown makes it clear that empathy is not about fixing people or solving their problems. It's about being present, listening, and understanding the feelings of others. Leaders who practice empathy can build stronger, more resilient teams because they foster a culture of trust and belonging. One of the biggest barriers to empathy is judgment. When we judge others, we shut down the possibility of real connection. Brown emphasizes the importance of leading without judgment, of approaching every situation with curiosity and compassion, even when it's difficult. Empathy fuels connection. Judgment drives disconnection. Leaders who lead with empathy create an environment where people feel seen and heard. This, in turn, fosters loyalty, creativity, and a deep sense of belonging within teams. Part 5. Living our values and integrity. In Dare to Lead, Brown emphasizes that living into your values is an essential part of being an effective leader. It's not just about stating your values, but about putting them into practice. She asks leaders to identify their core values, what truly matters to them, and make sure their decisions and actions are always aligned with those values. For instance, if one of your core values is fairness, you need to ensure that your actions reflect that value, even when it's difficult or unpopular. When leaders live into their values, they build trust and credibility with their teams. People respect leaders who act with integrity and authenticity, even in tough situations. Final thoughts. Daring leadership starts with us. Brené Brown's Dare to Lead is ultimately a call to action for all of us. Whether we lead in the workplace, in our communities, or in our personal lives, daring leadership requires us to show up with courage, embrace vulnerability, and prioritize connection. It's about leading with our whole hearts and creating spaces where others feel safe to do the same. Daring leaders are never silent about hard things. Leadership isn't about having all the answers or being perfect. It's about being brave enough to have the tough conversations, own our mistakes, and keep learning. By practicing empathy, building trust, and living into our values, we can transform not only our leadership, but the lives of those around us. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insightful content like this. Which book would you like me to summarize next? Let me know in the comments section. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Dare to Lead. I hope these insights inspire you to embrace vulnerability, lead with courage, and dare to be a little braver in your everyday life. See you next time.